And that's right. We are here on Live Long On Podcast. It is Monday, September 6th, 2021. We're here for the Labor Day Classic. Happy Labor Day, everyone. And we are here to talk about Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 3, The Paradise Syndrome. I'm Dave Mader, coming at you with Star Trek TV and movie reviews, joined with my dad, Ted Mader. How are you doing tonight, Dad? To break down this most recent episode of Star Trek, the original series, but it's been over since 1968, as mentioned. The Paradise Syndrome. We have a great panel joined, as it has been on many episodes, almost since the very first one. We have Adam Woodward with us tonight. How are you doing tonight, Adam?
I'm good. Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day to you. I am wearing white, but it's not after Labor Day, so I think it's okay.
You're good.
Okay, I'm good.
You're allowed to wear white. I don't buy that.
You don't buy into that
totally. No, I don't.
Well, let's find out if Jody Simpson feeling under the weather tonight can coming in known for the tag team saves. We got Ashley Millard.
Hello,
Ashley. We're here to talk about the third episode of season 3, The Paradise Syndrome. Thank you for coming in. I only messaged you a mere hour or so ago, maybe a little bit longer ago, to say, can you come in? You said yes, graciously joining us. Welcome.
So Ashley,
coming on.
I have to ask, do you know this episode, or did you watch this episode? Did you have time?
I know this episode, but I did rewatch it.
Well, okay, good for you.
Well.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm recently watched it too. I started at 6:05. So
okay.
I finished it at
I started at the same time.
So yeah.
Yeah, everyone was. Every time we have a long weekend Monday, everyone's like, "Are we doing this?" And I'm like, "Well, we talked about it last week that we were going to do it. It's okay if we don't want to do it, but we're always like, no, we should do it." And then everyone's like, "Oh, are we doing this?" Like, so there's kind of like this haze.
It's the long weekend around 4:00. You think, "Holy cow! I didn't look at this yet. I've got a couple hours to go." So
yeah, Mom was like, "This is Monday. Remember, Dad? It's Monday."
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Well, yeah, it's easy to lose track of. No worries, because even last night I had the Big Brother podcast, so I'm a little bit more trained.
Because I watched the golf tournament all afternoon, so it seems like Sunday.
Feels like Sunday, but it's actually a Monday, and I don't know how to transition that quite into this episode, but let's try. As we're here to talk about the Paradise Syndrome, an episode where Kirk gets amnesia on a planet. With people that they keep saying American Indians in the episode, Native Americans, Aboriginals, peoples, all these terms would apply. I think like
Navajo and Sioux, Dave. Navajo and Sioux.
There was quite a few mixed in, I believe, according to Spock.
A mixture of Navajo, Mohegan, and Delaware, I believe.
Ooh,
all among the more advanced and peaceful tribes.
It's like discovering Atlantis.
I don't know. Like in terms of reactions to like watching it in present day, this would never exist in present day. So it's hard. It's kind of like you're taken back to this time. You can't help but feel 1968 throughout the episode, but that's okay. I don't know. Let's go to Adam. Adam, what do you feel about the Paradise Syndrome on this rewatch?
Well, you start the episode off thinking of all the recent events and things that are happening in Canada, particularly, and I started this episode by saying or even before we started, by saying I kept going back what Ted always says. This was the 60s, different time, different. You got to push that everything current out of the mind, and just like
different
you said,
century, really.
It wouldn't have been made today. However, let's talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dad, how are you feeling about the Paradise Syndrome?
Well, it was kind of, you got to remember back in the 60s, there was a lot of cowboys and Indian shows. So,
right.
There was a lot of that going on, and we already did the cowboy one at Wyatt Earp. So we had to do the Indians now because we had done the cowboys, right?
Right. Well, yeah, like the 1950s were only 10 years before.
Yep,
that's true. Yeah,
right, and all those westerns, like Bonanza and all that. That was pretty common.
Yeah, that was in the 60s. Bonanza there's quite a few 60s westerns.
And pardon me here, but didn't Gene Roddenberry come from that whole writing style of westerns and?
Yeah, he came and cop dramas and different things, but yeah, like I just think that was the language of the time and of that century. It wasn't even meant to be like. It was actually probably meant to be more. progressive for the time, but it was just we've come a long way since then too. Ashley?
I love the episode. I always watch original series episodes with the thought of this was made in the 60s. And I think that's what I love about it so much is it's cheesy and it's something that wouldn't get made today. And the acting is over the top. And that's what makes it endearing for me.
Wait, are you saying that this performance is not timeless from William Shatner?
I am, but also that I love it because of that.
It's very subtle when you listen to it. Like, how about this one? Subtle, It's like he
sure.
holds back.
Yeah, definitely.
I am Kirok.
Kirok. This episode is also very it's a location episode. We get a lot of outdoor scenes here. It was all filmed up, I think, somewhere in California. We'd have to jump into that in fun facts. Adam, you might be on deck for fun facts, by the way.
Okay,
so,
great.
So get ready there. But this episode stood out to me in that it also starts on a nature shot. It begins right on the shot of the river instead of the Enterprise, dun, 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 captain's log or something like that. That would be more typical. This is a little bit of a departure from that. And we just kind of start with the natural beauty of the location, and then we kind of pan over and we get the beam in, and then the dialogue also serves that purpose to say, what a planet we're on.
I swear that's honeysuckle I smell.
I swear that's honeysuckle, and maybe throw in some orange blossom.
I swear that's a little orange blossom thrown in.
He sounded a little bit like Foghorn Leghorn there, right? Dr. McCoy.
Yeah.
I say, boy.
There's a lot of swearing going on. I swear there's orange blossoms. I swear there's honeysuckles. I swear there's American Indians.
I swear they're American Indians.
They are, Doctor.
You don't have to swear. It's okay.
Some varied writing in this episode.
Yeah, some varied writing. And it was like they're looking around and saying, okay, there's sort of a less advanced culture here that very much resembles Native Americans, North Americans from a certain time period, I guess, just to kind of they've done this in we have Chicago gangsters on one planet and Nazis on another planet, and I guess this is this version of that for here. So there's also some other explanation here with how these people were originally placed in this settlement. There wasn't sort of a natural evolution, because they said that the planet Spock explains that the planet should not be so Earth-like, considering it's how old it is or anything like that. So there's a bit of a mystery.
How primitive it is.
Yeah, they're setting up that mystery right from the bat. And then they find the obelisk, this big thing that they built, I guess, in the scene. I'm going to bring that in. But Dad, what did you think of this, the start of this episode and the sort of the setup here, when they're just sort of discovering the mystery?
Pretty good. I thought it was good. It was kind of, I don't know why they had to be there and they only had 30 minutes to figure out the whole thing. It was kind of weird that way, but
I think that what they explained in the dialogue is that that there's an asteroid coming and that they only have 30 minutes, and then they really Spock's really we should go now just in case, and but Kirk's but we got 30 minutes, right? And he's technically, but we really should go. And he's who cares, Spock? It doesn't matter. As a result, Kirk will end up spending, I don't know, a couple of months here, I think, is what this adds up to. This is more
the long machine. You got to admit, eh?
He was there for 4 months.
4 months. Yeah. This is a long away mission he goes on here, and it all starts with this obelisk thing. This really kind of sets up. It's a very important set piece for the story, where they're it's a alien metal thing with writing. Turns out to be a music. It turns out to be a song, as we find out later on.
Very cool machine, and a very powerful machine.
Yeah, this is I guess this is basically what they explain, which can be opened by flipping the communicator open or something like that.
So
Kirk Enterprise.
Did you guys catch Kirk talking about how no command decisions. This would be a great place to live. Like, I would just love living here. You know, a little bit of a precursor to what happened, right?
Well, yeah, with that orange blossom.
I swear that's a little orange blossom thrown in.
Yeah, like I think he's thinking I could live here.
Yeah, but Next Gen use the same theme quite often too. You know, when Picard was like in the Nexus or on that boat in the middle of the ocean in the holodeck, you know, they're always like, "Oh, just think of it. No, nothing to do. Just no command. I can do anything here. It's just whatever it is." I think these guys like to get away.
I think they like fresh air. Ashley, do you think that just sort of being in nature, and especially, I guess even with the episodes where they're on planets, but they're actually just like, you know, just the backlot studio that's been sort of with a, you know, like some sand brought in and a backdrop, you know, like they just like, we're out in nature, smell those pine trees.
I'm sure they like it. Wanting to stay there and thinking that seems great and not having to do the command stuff and all of that seems very out of Kirk's character.
Is it just that they're sailors?
It's
Are
not
they
horses there? Like what
Yeah, they're sailors. That's all new to them.
Yeah, they're so sick for land that they're like, oh, I can't wait to be home. I'm gonna. They're pirate sailors, but you know, it's like we got to get out here and just really enjoy this because it sucks being sort of an artificial light. Like Adam, they always bring this back in Next Gen. They're like, who wants to live in an artificial light, you know, with replicators and artificial air when you can be on a real planet breathing real air? That's life. That's living.
I know. They use the theme over and over, and I often wonder to my, you know, do the other crew get to go down if they find a planet that's actually hospitable and there's nothing going to eat you or kill you? Do they let them have some time down there because they could probably use it too?
They've done that on many episodes. Shore Leave and a couple others. They've done that.
Yeah. You can go camping if you want.
They don't have a holodeck like the modern Enterprises.
Yeah, all those luxuries, all those soft 24th century Starfleet officers. They in the 23rd century, they know how to get it done.
Can you get killed in the holodeck?
If the safeties get turned off.
Yeah.
If the safeties aren't off, you just kind of wake up and it's over.
Yeah, but the safeties were always getting turned off by accident. Whoops.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yes.
By accident.
Every time, all the time.
Okay.
A couple times a year.
I'm not up on that episode.
Yeah, no, the holodeck tries to kill you routinely. That's just its job. Once you install one.
It's a great episode when it happens, but yes.
Like if
you're on Voyager.
If your holodeck's it's on everyone. It's on Deep Space Nine. It's on Next Gen. It's if your holodeck's not trying to kill you, it's a bad holodeck. Really, is kind of the point. Okay. So, but yeah, they don't need any of that. They're just happy to be outside and with nature.
Just think of all the red shirts they would have lost if they had one on this show.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why you just had to, they had to recruit just in masses at this period, right? They have to. That's why they need so many human colonies just to, fuel the Starfleet, I think, and keep the fleet going with enough guys, enough red shirts at least. Okay, yeah. So this whole thing where Kirk eventually he ends up in the obelisk, and there's a few pronunciations of obelisk, obelisk. It's very inconsistent, much like the Mugatos or the Gumatos or the Muagis, which were featured on Star Trek Lower Decks last week, which was very funny. I don't remember when we did that one. Remember the Mugatos?
No, I never met them.
Nah, that's okay.
They used to live down the street.
Mugatos.
Johnny and Debbie Mugato.
Mugato? Well, that should be like a new sitcom, the Mugatos. We should pitch that one. Okay, so in this episode, Kirk ends up getting amnesia through this obelisk, and then Spock has to he's like, McCoy, we got to go. I know we can't find the captain. He's missing because he's kind of trapped inside the thing, inside the obelisk. And I love where he's like, you can't just leave him. And he's like,
I love how McCoy always does that. You just can't leave him. Well, we got a job to do.
He's like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Here's the clip.
He said
In the time it has taken me to explain the problem, the asteroid has moved from here to here. The longer we delay, the less the likelihood of being able to divert it.
He's like, listen to me.
And isn't McCoy a man of science? Like, wouldn't he understand this?
Yeah.
Oh, no, he's
But
totally
no,
emotional.
he's got to get a rock. This is the planet. This is the asteroid.
They are moving together. They are coming closer together, Doctor. He's like, I know.
Warp 9 to make speed.
Yeah, it's Scotty's like, I can't give you warp 9.
I can't give you warp 9 much longer, Mr. Spock. These engines are beginning to show signs of stress.
Stress or not, we cannot reduce speed. I do not intend to miss that deflection point.
All right, but we're moving further into the danger range all the time. If these circuits...
Objection noted, Mr. Scott. Carry on.
Don't you get the feeling that every time that Spock's in command of the Enterprise, like the crew just hate him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he's like the boss who's always right, but is unrelenting.
Yeah.
You know, like, yes, you're technically right, but you will never give me a break. You know, there's no give and take.
He could care less. He could care less.
No, do your duty or not. Be good at your job or not. Ashley?
They have to work a little harder when Spock is in charge.
And Scotty's a miracle worker, and he's complaining this whole episode.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, man, I can't do it. I can't give you full power. I like when he says, okay, we're gonna blow it out, and this is my favorite thing where Spock's like, not now. He's like, it's not a matter of like not now, or it's a matter of like Spock is becoming more like Kirk.
Full power. Dilithium crystal circuit's failing, sir. We'll have to replace it.
Not now.
0. Now, sir.
Activate deflectors.
Yeah, then they activate the deflectors. He's like, not now. We'll have to replace the dilithium crystals. He's like, not now. Like, or I've already decided we're blowing this thing up. And this, they have to hobble their way back to the planet for 58 days. Is that what happens after this?
Yeah, 58 days. Yeah.
That, like, okay, the crew can't be happy about that either. He's like, okay, we have 58 days, but when we get there, we'll only have 4 hours to figure out the whole thing out.
Did you notice that after the 58 days, Kirk's hair was longer and his sideburns were a lot bigger than normal? Did you notice that?
Yeah, I also felt like, okay, like this, here, I'm going to find those sideburns where
2 months worth of growth.
58 days. Yeah, like if you look here, those are some furry.
Yeah, that was his sideburn. But if you look at him at the beginning of the show, he's got the little pointed sideburns.
Yeah, they do get a lot thicker here. I felt like this starting to more resemble William Shatner of present day versus the William Shatner of season 1.
He was just.
I don't like the way he looked in the whole season 3.
This was a rough year for him, apparently in his personal life as well. So, but you see how that fly landed on his head too during the scene?
Yeah.
And he never broke character
on the TV. And I said, it's not on the TV.
No. It lands on him. He doesn't break. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't scratch. He just does the scene. No problem.
He's outside.
He's just like Mike Pence.
Yeah, he's unwavering.
That's when the fly landed on his head in the debate.
Yeah, that's exactly. I guess they're the same. I don't have to segue there. Yeah, okay. And so let's talk about the whole Kirk amnesia storyline, which is the other as he becomes Kirok in this story. Meeting at first Miramani he comes out, he doesn't remember anything. He's been hit with a mind ray, and he meets her and one other of the villagers sort of outside. I'm just gonna bring her up. Where is she? Yeah, here she is. I don't know, and then she leads him back to the village where he meets like sort of the elders, and they kind of eventually judge him to be kind of a god.
He saved the kid. He saved the kid.
There's a kid that was drowning as well, and then he performs like basically CPR, although kind of a bizarre version of CPR where you have to get the legs moving instead of just pumping on the chest.
I think that was a 1960s thing.
That was a 1960s CPR.
It might have been what you did in the 60s. Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, so there you go. It's just like another anachronism, so to speak. But that's what happens. That's only going to continue to happen as time marches on and more inventions and things get invented. So yeah, I'm just thinking. Okay, they all speak English. I didn't quite know if that was because of the universal translator or not. I think that's what we're to infer here. I think. Anyway, so they say only a god could breathe life back into the dead. and that leads to them to giving Kirk the medicine.
The head medical guy.
He becomes the medicine doctor of sorts, right? But not Salish, who had previously held this office, is not happy because he was also supposed to marry Miramani. That was his like betrothed. That was like his destiny. And then Kirk comes along, does some CPR. He also came out of the obelisk, which is also why they think he is some kind of god or some kind of like he somehow come from the other side, from the godly world, from heaven. And so there's all that contributed to it. Kirk doesn't really know. He doesn't know his background, but he does know a lot. He knows how to like create irrigation and farming, and he does know other things. He has some skills left intact, but not knowing he's not a god is not one of them. Dad, thoughts?
No, he didn't know who he was at that point. He knew he was from somewhere else, but he couldn't remember it. So he was trying to think all the time, and that's how he came up with his name, Kirok.
He's like, maybe I am a god. Who knows?
But he kind of chickened out when they needed him to go to the temple. He wouldn't go. Like,
they're like, "Oh, you're no medicine."
Yeah, and then
man.
they stoned him.
Yeah, we gotta get to that scene too. But yeah,
but I thought that like Shatner in this did a pretty good job convincing that he was not. He didn't know. He could have been a god. He could have been a lot of things, but he didn't know, and he didn't say he wasn't. He didn't say he was.
True. Ashley, did you feel like he was just like, I don't know, man. I'm open to all possibilities. Kind of like when Data thought he was an Iceman in Star Trek The Next Generation.
I love that episode.
It's a good one. Yeah, I think, he was confused and didn't know, and the dreams were confusing him, and he doesn't know why he knows certain things.
Right.
Sure, it was all very confusing.
An Iceman. Jaden.
Also, our cat's named after that episode or that character. Yeah. So, he's open to it, but he immediately becomes like his life is in danger from the second he even leans into this a bit, because there's somebody who clearly was like not too happy to be unseated here, but he's like, I don't know, I'm just going with it. And he doesn't really have much choice because he doesn't know where else to go, and he eventually has to survive like 60 days, I guess, or more on this planet with these people. And so there's like kind of we're flipping back and forth between the two stories, but eventually, Spock burns out the planet, like we mentioned, and they're on their way back. So Salish confronts, and let's talk about let's find Mr. Salish. Where's he? Hold on. Yeah, he was a bad guy. Salish was kind of like the villain of the episode, right? Or he was the antagonist to Kirok, as he becomes to know him, because he's like, well, okay, we're going to get married, right? And she's like, no, he's the new medicine man. I have to marry him. And he's like, well, if you had the choice, you would still pick me, Miramani, right? And she's like, what do you think, Ashley? Was she going to pick Salish?
No, she was going to pick the one with the power.
With power. So do you think that was it? Or do you think it was just like, I also dig Kirk because Kirk's got furry sideburns?
I think eventually she was into him, but I think she just wanted to go for who she was meant to be for, and power. This dude didn't seem great. I don't think she liked him much, even before Kirk got there.
No, I didn't like him either. Adam, what did you think of Salish?
I didn't really know his role before. I think, clearly he has the obelisk thing on his head and he's in control, but he didn't act like a leader. He didn't act like he was, all he was trying to do is just sort of actually, right at the beginning, he just handed it right over. It was no question. It was later on, I think, that he started questioning Kirk's legitimacy in the role. But
I think it was when a couple of drops of blood were dropped.
That's right. Well, he did.
The god who bleeds.
Behold, the god who bleeds.
But one thing I didn't how did he come to that attack? That was pretty. He determined somewhere along the line that he had to, do physical violence on Kirk.
He was going to put a hit on Kirk. He's like, it's either you or me. So, but he believes that Kirk's a god, so he expects to die in this fight. But when he actually is able to cut his hand, he goes, "Oh, now I have a chance of a comeback here. So he's like, I don't know. I don't know how much of it is he's just in fear of Kirok, he's obviously been sort of he's lost everything he ever knew about himself. His whole life has sort of been destroyed here, just because Kirk has sort of shown up. So he's sort of sympathetic in that sense, but like you're also like, this guy's a jerk and I don't like him anyway. So
I can ask Ashley a question. So you thought that Miramani was more for the power, whoever's in charge, and maybe that was her role. But did you like the Kirk Miramani relationship?
Yeah, it was fine. It was believable.
Yeah, I thought so too. They did a good job together.
Good. And that's why I think she did eventually fall for him, but she's the chief's daughter and has to marry the
right.
So she's not going to say, yes, I would choose you, because he's not who she's meant to marry by their beliefs.
Right.
Right. She's like, she's like, oh, you mean tradition is we're supposed to get married? She's like, tradition's why we're not getting married. But even if it was, but she's like, you're a great guy, Salish. Why don't you just, any of the girls here would be happy to marry you. What are you talking about? Just get yourself out there.
But every now and then Shatner does put a really good role on. I thought this was one of the convincing ones in this episode for me anyway.
He really tried. You can tell that Shatner was really going for it in this one. He really wanted this to work. I think it kind of does and kind of doesn't, in some respects, because the relationship, it is this, they do give it justice because it's over this immense amount of time. Just like City on the Edge of Forever, that was a whole week. And that this feels almost like a shorter amount of time, even though it's a longer period that actually goes on in the episode. It felt like Kirk and Spock were there for a long time, and there was even the stakes were so high there, with all time, I guess, being the thing. But yeah, their relationship in the thing, and I guess they really pay it off. Where he's like, she's like, you can marry anybody, Kirok, but you have first dibs at me, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, this sounds good. I'm so happy, Miramani. Yeah, they're frolicking, they're dancing around, they're going through. It's kind of and then they had the wedding ceremony where he's wearing like the feathers, like the big cape, like almost like a Liberace or an Elvis cape, but also kind of.
I've got something in fun facts that takes that explains that cape, and it'll all make sense.
It all makes sense. I would like to know more about it. I don't know if I have a picture of it or not, but if I don't, I need to really find that. It was quite ornate, but yeah. So they have the story. He gets engaged. He gets into he has a fight, but then there was ceremony as well. Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, Spock is kind of working himself to death. It seems like, even though they have all this time to get back, apparently that's not enough time for him to solve the problem that he has to eventually face. Right? McCoy says that his blood is ice water or something.
That green ice water you call blood.
Yeah, he's like, I can go for days. I don't need to eat. I'm a Vulcan. And McCoy's like, I don't know, I scanned you, and who knows? Maybe you're right. I don't know much about this, apparently. But he eventually threatens to get the guards in there against
Yet he was able to hook his brain up.
Yeah, Spock's brain. What is brain? Over to the whole Kirk and Miramani relationship, his sideburns, as you mentioned. We talked about the fly landing on his head already, and how he didn't break character. Impressive. And then eventually, this is where he knows he's not a god again, but he knows how to invent lamps. He knows how to invent irrigation and farm and new agricultural techniques, which is quite impressive.
And he can do the leg CPR.
Mm-hmm. Knows those things. But his understanding of human anatomy, that was one of the things that didn't work out. Because he doesn't know he can bleed. He doesn't know certain things, right? But he also doesn't. He's incredibly modest, I guess, is also true as well. So then we have Spock cracks the code of it being like a song that's written on the outside of the obelisk. The obelisk, it turns out that those are musical notes. As we all know, Spock's a musician at heart. He'll bust on the lyre. and he figures it out. He's in the band. He is not Herbert. And that's kind of the plan when they get in. Meanwhile, Kirk, there's this whole storm that's coming on, and now that he's like the leader and the medicine tribe leader and all these other things, the spiritual leader of the tribe, now they expect him to do things. And now that there's a storm, they were like, you have to go to the obelisk and you have to go inside and you have to solve it. He's like, I don't know how to do that. They're like, if you don't do this, first it starts with Miramani. She's like, if you don't do this, there's no one else to do this. You have to do this, and this is like your whole job. Like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't bring this up until now, and no one explained this to you till now. But you're up. I guess he never bothered to ask either. He's like, oh sure. I'm the leader of the whole tribe. They don't expect me to do anything. I guess. And
yeah, but again, that just. He did look a little clueless when this, like, anytime he had to do something like this, like, oh crap, it didn't show the usual Kirk confidence that he has on the bridge of the Enterprise at all.
Right, because that's earned confidence. He did, like, the evil version of him when he was split into a good version and a bad version. The bad version would have just faked it, right? He would just like, I know exactly what I'm doing, or
yeah, but there was Kirok. Yeah, he was Kirok. There was no Kirk in him at all.
This was a blank slate. This was Kirok. Yeah, so he ends up outside of the obelisk. He's like, I guess I'll just yell on the outside. I got to try something. I am Kirok. It doesn't work though, and we're leading up to the stoning scene where at first Kirok is getting stoned by the villagers for failing to sort of deal with this problem, this crisis of the storm, and whatever is expected of him to fix it, to go inside and to redirect it. So I don't know, like stoning's pretty brutal to throw into a show like this. Never seen too many depicted in not an R-rated kind of a setting. Thoughts? Any?
Stoning a pregnant woman to death is a pretty dark thing to put into this episode.
Yeah. So,
whoa, we got to talk about that in itself. That she's pregnant.
Well, they got married and they've been married for 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was action happening there.
Definitely.
I know, but. Man, this is the first time. I mean, we've always known that Kirk's been at it in his many escapades across the galaxy. But man, this is the first time a kid's ever been brought into it.
Yeah. David Marcus would have been in the picture by this point too. He would have been born.
He would have been born, but it wasn't until the movies. It wasn't really discussed.
Wasn't in canon. It wasn't discussed. So like as far as the audience knows at this point, and as far as the writers knew at this point, he has no children at this point.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But he does. Well, yeah. So this child's never born. But stone. I don't really understand a couple things about the stoning thing. One is like, is this how stonings really work? Where you stand there and people throw big bludgeony rocks like through the air at you, and you have to sort of like duck and weave and hope or is it? I've seen it like people in real life. Don't they get just buried up to their necks and then
they get stoned their head? Yeah.
Yeah. Like this was
they just stoned their head.
I don't know. I don't know.
To get away from it.
It's depicted so seldomly in any kind of entertainment, even like sort of hardcore like medieval warfare or anything. The more like sort of things I've seen in media. So it's kind of stands apart in a lot of ways. It's always been like one of the more disturbing things. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to die that way. And the other thing I really don't understand about the scene is how it starts with him getting rocks thrown at him, and he's able to duck and weave a little bit. She eventually decides, I want to be with him. No, I have to save him, Kirok. So she gets up there and she's taking hits, but he's trying to protect her. So it seems like he should be taking the worst of it, if anything, but that's not the case because she succumbs to these wounds. She has bad internal injuries. It doesn't die right away, but she eventually dies in this. And he's up in a few minutes and figuring after he comes out of his amnesia after the mind meld, he's pretty much walking around and doing his job like it wasn't that bad for him. So he was in the stoning path for longer. B, he was sort of like, even when they were both up there, he was taking more of it. And so that's the only part I don't understand is like why he comes out of this so unclean, is other than he's the hero of the story. And they weren't going to give him a kid. Is that the real answer? Right.
Yeah, he couldn't leave his wife there, so she had to die.
Yeah, she's not going to be on the main cast for all of season 3.
No.
Hey, I got a baby that I picked up when I was Kirok. They're like, no.
You know what was
Is that? Oh,
I found that around this scene, a couple things is that yes, she was mortally wounded, but took a long time to die and didn't appear mortally wounded. McCoy couldn't save her, and come on, he just put a brain back in Spock a few weeks ago. I just found it convenient. Maybe the wounds could have been serious. Maybe they could have done something more here. You're right, Dave. I think it was weak. The only thing I came up, well, maybe she was hit in the head, but they needed to show better wounds. I think somehow.
Her head was fine. Fine.
It would have made more sense if she had just taken a random one, and like maybe they would have shot this differently now. I don't know if they would have done it at all now. I guess
she had internal injuries.
It's hard to imagine.
The thing that stood out to me is, the Nurse Chapel beams down and then gives her a hypospray, scans her, and then just goes over to McCoy, and they sit there for several minutes while Spock is mind melding with Kirk. Could they not have been working on, like, I feel like
why did she come down?
Left her to bleed internally while they were just sitting there doing nothing and watching Spock and Kirk mind meld. They could have been working on her.
Yeah.
I was surprised they didn't, finish that scene on the Enterprise. Honestly, they could have taken them up and had them in the medical.
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, I agree with you completely. The scene feels strange. Oh, and even when Nurse Chapel comes down, like she's the first one to pay any mind to Miramani at all. Like she's been there lying next to Kirk. Yeah. Spock and McCoy only care about Kirk. They barely notice her at all.
But that's their job. That's believable to me.
Yeah. And then once, but Chapel does give her the hypospray first, but like, yeah, they kind of leave her. They don't really. I think that they're like, I don't know. Maybe it's because she's like, they're thinking Prime Directive, maybe, and like we kind of have a problem on our hands here, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, but okay. Coming back to the Prime Directive, Starfleet ordered them to, knock the asteroid off the path of the planet. Like, why?
I don't know. Like, well, other than like, I guess because those people were not there because of like natural evolution. They were placed there by these other people, the
preservers.
The preservers. So therefore, the Prime Directive may not apply, or it might have sort of it might be an exemption. But they didn't know that, I guess, going in. I don't have a good answer for you. You can only speculate.
No, I know. There's a couple of annoying things in this episode. Ashley just identified my biggest problem with this episode. I don't understand why Nurse Chapel came down.
Yeah.
Because nothing else was done on the planet. They didn't need any of the.
She had to bring the hypo and all that stuff.
Oh, I guess there was. They did finish in the obelisk, but they could have gone back.
The surgical kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring down a surgical kit, she says. Anyway, and then we get our mind meld, which I played a little bit of it, but it's glorious.
I am Kirok.
I am Kirok.
I am. I'm Kirok. Spock.
Spock. It just ends, and then he's out of it. He's no longer Kirok. He is now Spock. And then, I'm Kirok! He's an extremely dynamic individual.
An extremely dynamic individual.
As he says. Anyway, so he's kind of worried about Miramani now that he has his senses. He has all his... He knows who he is again, but he also remembers everything that's happened to him while he's been here. And so he's worried about her, but they're like, we got to go. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I got to go. Take care of her. Do what you can for her, I guess. And then he goes inside with Spock, and they kind of like figure it out. And Spock explains that, yeah, for the last 58 days, I've been figuring out this is musical notes and everything else. And whatever. And he's like, well, do you know what to do? And he's like,
He goes, yeah, I think I have to push this button.
yeah.
Can you read them?
I do have an excellent eye for musical notes, Captain. They would seem to indicate
Just do
that
it.
this series of relays activated in their proper spot.
Spock, just press the right button.
Just press the right button. I don't care. My new favorite clip. My new favorite Kirk. Oh, do I not have it?
Just press the right button.
There we go.
I like it when Kirk gets a little frustrated with Spock. I think it's always, you can see that, you get frustrated with that logical, I got to explain everything. Here's the steps, process. But anyway, it's funny to see him lose his patience.
Here's my question though. Like, okay, so that was a good scene and a good moment, but then like it's very somber afterwards because like Miramani's like sort of death is imminent, and that's sort of what he has to deal with next, where he goes to see her, and McCoy's like, he's like, can you save her? He's like, nope, she's not gonna live. I can't do anything. I'm good, but I'm not that good. I can't save people from rocks.
Can put brains back on their heads, but
yeah, this is too hard.
I can regrow kidneys with a pill, but I can't save her from internal.
Excellent.
This one, see, okay, and then also, like her, I don't know, like he's sad about this death, but like I thought he was more broken up when Edith Keeler died. Quite frankly, I think like that one was a hard one for him.
I think it was though. I mean, so he's being Kirok, and now he's Kirk again. Like, what did he bring back with this? Like, did he remember everything?
What does he wait? Well, what does he regret? I guess too, because he obviously, this was not great. He was interfering and sort of like became involved in this love triangle. And obviously, like if he could if he had knowledge, he would not have made these choices. But he did make these choices, so he was kind of a victim of circumstance here. I guess like especially the fact that the child dies and the fact that they put that in the story was, I think especially, I guess, tragic, right? And so, how much he plays it here on screen, I don't know if I fully like feel it. Like Edith Keeler Dialing was like, oh, like you were playing that "Goodnight, Sweetheart" song, right? I guess I don't know if they didn't have a theme song. These two, the Miramani shuffle. I don't know. No, I don't know what they're. I guess the feather. I'm just going to move on then. So anyway, the end of the story is that she dies, and it's the end. That's kind of the end of the story, and he has to move on with his life. And there's not a lot more resolution than that. So it's kind of a down note.
And it just ends. It's one of those episodes that there's no little laugh or anything. It was over.
Yeah, even when Kirk's brother died, they had to make sure to get a laugh in at the end, but not this one. This one's pretty. So I guess this really should be maybe even. Is it because it's Native Americans and we're looking at 1968, so we can only judge this as being so good by today's standards, or is this like a really strong story? Is sort of my question. Is this like even one of the better season 3 episodes? Adam, put you on the spot.
I like episodes where I can see the evolution of the writing into Next Gen or other spinoffs, because wherever the captain goes and becomes something different, or as you mentioned, Data's Jaden, I kind of like that storyline when they become put into what was the Picard episode where he lived a lifetime in 10 minutes. Light. Awesome episode. Same kind of thing. And again, when we do wrap up, I'm going to talk about, just the legacy that this original series did create, and the passive writing that, people followed with it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, because even the Preservers storyline sort of gets recycled in Next Gen with the people that came through and just seeded the entire galaxy with
relics. Yeah, the little pieces of
with their like DNA or whatever, and that was the explanation for why there's so many humanoid like people.
Right. Yeah, they had the Next Gen had an episode like that too. Are they? I guess that we can infer that.
I forget what they were called, but they look just like the Founders.
Yeah, it was also played by Sloane Jens.
Played by her, yeah.
Yeah, who played the female changeling on Deep Space Nine as well. So yeah, so Dad, what did you think of that? Because they were explaining like this is why so many people look human. It's because there was a bunch of humans somewhere, or some very close to humans, and they were just kind of like spread out over a bunch of planets by aliens.
Yeah, well, it gives an answer, I guess, to certain questions, but I don't know. I just look at each episode for what it is. I don't look ahead to what it became because I don't really watch those episodes. In the other series that you guys all watch, I don't watch any of that. Each episode's its own entity, and it's nothing more than what the show you watch for 60 minutes, and then it's on to the next one.
Right. Okay. So where does this one rank for you? Where is this? Is this a good one?
It's an interesting episode. I mean, I don't think it's bad. I don't. It's not the best one they've ever done, but it's not a. It's they do a lot of episodes like the German episode, the gangster episode, where they go back into a time warp where they're in a certain Wyatt Earp episode.
This is just one of many settings
because they only have so much information to write about.
Right.
You can only do so many Gorn stories.
Or Klingon stories, maybe.
Yeah.
You got
to have stuff that people relate to.
Yeah. And Ashley, for you, what's this? Is this like a really strong episode, strong story, like sort of a tragic story for Kirk, or is this sort of like a?
Yeah, I like it. I like what they gave Kirk in the story. It's one of the more entertaining ones for me that I do like to rewatch. So it's up there for me for sure.
Adam, is there some trivia you could share with us?
Sure can. So the original title for this episode was The Pale Face. I'm glad they didn't use that.
Oh, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Recall.
Yeah. Although not mentioned on screen, the planet in this episode, according to the script, was called Amerind. That's Amerind. Several months passed over time of this episode, making it by far the longest time period in episode in the original series. This is the second time in 3 episodes where Spock performs a mind meld on Kirk, and I don't remember the other 2. Dave, maybe you do.
Well, one would be the Way of the Gun. One where they had to convince him the bullets aren't real, and
right.
Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, Wyatt Earp one, and the other one I can't quite. I wouldn't know for sure.
Okay. And the original script had Mirami surviving with Kirk's child. That would have been very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, but then what? I don't understand. What's the original? Where does the original script end? Like, oh, and she came along and she lived on the Enterprise.
No, but then he's got a kid out there, which always the kid comes back and does something, So it would have been interesting. But they did that with David Marcus pretty well. Okay, the obelisk was built especially for this episode, which is weird, using season 3 because they didn't really build too much new in season 3. The lake.
That time.
Yep. The lake featured in this episode is the Franklin Reservoir, which is above Los Angeles. It's been featured in hundreds of Western and police shows, but is most famous for the fishing hole in the opening of the credits of the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, okay. So that's where they were starting off, Dad. Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
Ah.
You got to whistle. I don't know.
Yeah. Although only seen in the distance in a couple of shots, the little village on the far shore of the lake includes some realistic details. The people can be seen working on canoes. As a subtle hint of the time Kirk spent on the planet, small sideburns were applied to Shatner's head to give them a squared off shape instead of his regular points. You called it.
Yeah.
Okay, here you go, Dave. The robe made of colorful feathers Kirk wears during the wedding ceremony can be seen in the 1966 Batman episodes, The Spell of Tut, worn by King Tut.
King Tut.
Oh, God.
King Tut.
I gotta find that. The King Tut.
It was called The Spell of Tut, or Tut. Tut's case is shut. Yeah, so if you want to go back and see that again.
I'll go.
Yeah, only in this episode do you see the ship firing its gold deflector beam.
Yeah, I don't. Sorry, keep going.
Yep. Her is not on the bridge in this episode, but stock footage from And the Children Shall Lead places her there for a moment.
I saw her in the episode.
Yeah, she was not in it. They just dumped her in the edits, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And the outfits worn by the natives include headbands and decorations worn with glass beads, seed beads. These were really used by Native Americans, but were originally used as a trade item brought by Europeans. But after that, before that time, Native Americans used porcupine quills and beads made out of other natural materials.
Okay, I think I have a photo of this thing, but it's not a great image.
Can you bring that up?
I'm trying to. Yeah, sorry, it's like a bird. It's so obscure. Yeah, there. I think that's the feather bird thing that he's wearing in that, right?
That's King Tut.
Yeah. He doesn't look Egyptian.
No, but he's a bad guy.
All right. So
that wraps it up for me there, Dave.
Oh, great. Okay, great job, Adam. Thanks for bringing us that trivia. You know what time it is? It's time for the ratings. Let's bring that in and figure out what we're going to quantify this episode. So we only have so many left. What do we have left here after tonight? We only have 7 left. So this is our 8th last one. Ashley, have you been here before? Have you voted on this?
I have not. No.
So I'm going to throw you in with Kevin's. Well. Okay, so Ashley, why don't you start us off tonight?
I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8, okay. Dad, do you want to go next?
6.5 for me, Dave. I was a little less excited than 8.
6.5?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give this like, I don't know, like a 7.
I'm going with 7 too, Dave.
7 to Adam, and Jody did write in his answer. I believe he gave it a 5.5. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm surprised he gave it that much.
Yeah, he was not super keen on it. So
you know what? I got to say, bringing fresh blood in, Ashley, thank you, because I liked the episode more than I did when I started today. So thank you.
You're welcome. I can be optimistic and talk up every episode of the original series.
There you go. You should be a permanent panelist. You've been doing it the whole time. I need support back here.
Ted, you've been pretty down on the show lately.
Even the like really bad ones where I'm watching it and I'm like, this is such a bad, even for the time this is bad, I still enjoy it and I still watch them.
There you go. She's a fan, and we can have more than 4 people because it's StreamYard. We don't have to be limited to 4.
There you go.
So we can have up to 10 people on screen if we want. So
bring it on next week as well.
Yeah, you're in. You're going in, Coach.
Okay. 7 weeks. Next 7 weeks.
Next 7 weeks. Next week we have an. Sorry. By the way, so the rating for tonight among the 5 ratings comes to a 6.8. Which is above the average for its season and kind of pretty good overall. This has a 6.8 as well on the Internet Movie Database, and it's Kirk, kind of really a Kirk focused story, although Spock's in quite a bit, as is most episodes of the original series. All right, next episode is called Turnabout Intruder. Does anyone remember that one?
No clue.
I think it's where the girl took over Kirk's body.
I believe this is actually the last episode of the original series, the very final one, the end of season 3. And you're right. It's about a mad scientist who tries to take control of the Enterprise by switching bodies with Captain Kirk. Somebody, as far as I've never even seen the episode.
It's a woman.
It's a woman. Somebody who was at the academy with him, and he had a kind of a romantic relationship and something like that. So I'm interested to watch that one. It's rated higher than this episode, the episode we watched tonight, as far as the public's concerned.
I haven't seen that episode either. I don't remember it, so looking forward to it.
The one thing that's kind of the blemish of that episode going in is that like she has this line that like Starfleet has this rule that women can't be Starfleet captains in that episode. And it's like it's out of character for Star Trek to even have that in the episode. Not to mention it's the very last episode of the series that they kind of threw that in there because that was never said before, and it's sort of like, well, why would it's kind of just a downer, at the end. But I guess other than that, but if you look past that, we'll see how we can rate up the episode. Okay, so let's bring that down on screen. Thanks for the ratings, everybody, and for talking about this episode called what was it called? The Paradise Syndrome. Just to tell you about everything else we do here on Live Long and Podcast. We talk about Star Trek, new and old, all the time. Tuesday nights, Ashley and I and Jaemeel and Kevin and Jeff, we're talking about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, every episode in order. Talking tomorrow, it's an episode season 4, episode 6, I believe. It's called Ship is Down or something. Come on, help me out, Ashley. What's it called?
Oh gosh.
It's called Starship Down. Starship Down.
Right.
And it's when the Defiant gets attacked by the Jem'Hadar. So if you want to, it's kind of a fun episode. And Cisco's going to take Kira to a baseball game on the holodeck and get hot dogs from Cork. So it's going to be great. Check all that. Also on Thursday, we're going to be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks. We're talking about all the new episodes that have been coming out for season 2. We're doing that with Davin Skellhorn from Locutors of Trek, who's crossing over with us. Happens to be second cousins with Jeff and I. And out of Nova Scotia, he has his Star Trek podcast that, as mentioned, Locutors of Trek, that he does with his friend Dave. Check that out. And as well, we have Super Mater Brothers podcasting that I do with my brother Jeff and Jaemeel Robinson and others, and Ashley Millard, and whoever we come in for the different non-Star Trek related podcasts that we do over there, whether that be Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. We just did Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and we're doing all the new stuff that's been coming out this year, including WandaVision and Loki and different series, Black Widow as well. 3 times a week, Jaemeel and Jeff and I are covering Big Brother season 23, the American edition. Now going into week 9, we're into the final 8. Will this Cookout Alliance? Will this get all these non-black people out? We're going to find out. So check that out every week, Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, as we break that all down. And our monthly show, Trivial Debates, our third channel where we argue about movies, TV, sports, and more in a game show format. You can always check those new episodes out. I think those are all our shows. I think those are all the plugs. And I did it in under 60 minutes.
Did you get Lower Decks in there? I didn't hear that.
I did get it in.
Okay. Wow. That was everything. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I just mentioned, check out Eamon Mater's podcast. It's called Let's Talk About Fighting Games. You can find that on wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. Dad, you got any plugs? What do you got going on in your Twitters?
I don't know, but your cousin, your other second cousin, Tracy Fleury, won the Oakville Bonspiel today.
My other second cousin. Oh, that's on on your side.
On the other side,
right.
But she won the Bonspiel in Oakville, the Labor Day Classic.
Well, she's quite a notable curler. To all, if you know,
all you curling fans.
Yeah, to all the curling fans out there, she's on the tour. I know. Anyway, so check it out. Check out Tracy Fleury, second cousin. And thank you again, Ashley, for joining us tonight. I'll be talking to you again tomorrow for Deep Space Nine, and all that. And happy Labor Day again. All right, only 7 left to go, guys. We'll be back next week for Turnabout Intruder. Until then, live long and podcast. Have a good one, and let's get some Kirk to take us out here.
I am Kirok.
I
am Kirok. I am. I'm Kirok.
Kirok. Kirok.
Spock.